Every day, on every single day, I'm going to show you what it means to be cherished and to be loved.
The casino glittered like a trap wrapped in gold. Crystal chandeliers dripped light across marble floors, and the air hummed with the soft clink of champagne glasses and the shuffle of poker chips. But beneath the elegance, danger pulsed like a hidden heartbeat. Maria Jackson stood at the bar, her dark skin glowing under the dim lights, her curves wrapped in a simple black dress that made her look simultaneously out of place and impossible to ignore. She wasn't supposed to be here. This wasn't her world. But desperation had a way of dragging people into places they didn't belong. Her father's debt, $3 million, owed to the Korean Mafia. She clutched her phone, staring at the message that had summoned her here. Come alone. Midnight. Casino Royale. Or your father dies. Her hands trembled. She had no money, no leverage, no plan. Just fear and a hope that maybe, somehow, she could negotiate. Maybe she could beg for more time. Maybe she could save the man who had never once saved her. Then she felt it. Eyes on her. Heavy. Burning. Unblinking. Maria turned slowly, and her breath stopped. At the far end of the casino, surrounded by men in black suits, sat a man who looked like he was carved from cold marble and cruelty. Sharp jaw. Dark eyes that reflected no light. Hair swept back perfectly. A black suit that fit him like a second skin. He didn't move. Didn't speak. He just watched her with the stillness of a predator who had already decided she was his. Kenzo. The underboss. The most feared man in the Korean underworld. The man her father owed everything to. Maria swallowed hard. Her instincts screamed at her to run. But her feet moved forward instead. One trembling step at a time, until she stood in front of his table. He didn't greet her, didn't smile. He simply gestured to the chair across from him with 2 fingers. Sit. She obeyed, her heart pounding so hard she thought it would shatter her ribs. For a long moment he just stared at her, studying, calculating, like she was a chess piece he was deciding how to use. Miss Jackson, he said finally, voice low, smooth, lethal. Your father sent you. It wasn't a question. I came to talk, she stammered. To ask for more time. Please, we'll pay you back. I swear. Just, your father has had time, Kenzo interrupted, eyes unblinking. 2 years. And he spent it running instead of paying. Maria's throat tightened. He made mistakes. I know. But killing him won't get you your money back. Kenzo tilted his head slightly, studying her like she was a puzzle he found mildly interesting. You're right. Killing him won't. Hope flickered in her chest. Then he leaned forward, elbows on the table, his gaze locking onto hers with such intensity she couldn't breathe. But taking you will. Her blood went cold. What? His voice dropped lower, quieter, more dangerous. Your father's debt is erased. On one condition. Maria's hands curled into fists. What condition? Kenzo's lips didn't move into a smile, but something dark flickered in his eyes. You marry me. Silence. The world tilted. Maria stared at him, certain she had misheard. You what? Marry me? He repeated, calm as if he were ordering coffee. Tonight. Right now. Sign the papers. Become my wife. And your father lives. Her heart slammed against her chest. You're insane. I'm practical, he corrected. Your father has nothing I want. But you. His gaze dragged slowly down her face, her neck, her collarbone. You're worth more than $3 million. Maria shot to her feet, chair scraping loudly. I'm not some object you can buy. Kenzo didn't move, didn't flinch. He simply raised one hand. Instantly, his men closed in, blocking every exit. Maria froze, her pulse thundering in her ears. Kenzo stood slowly, towering over her, his presence suffocating. He stepped closer, close enough for her to feel the heat radiating from him, close enough for her to see the faint scar along his jaw. You have 2 choices, he murmured, voice soft but absolute. Marry me, or watch your father die tonight. Her breath came in shallow gasps. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Why me? She whispered. What do you really want? Because this isn't about money anymore, is it? For the first time, something shifted in Kenzo's expression. Something too complex to name. His eyes darkened, and for a moment he looked almost human. "No," he said quietly. "It's not about money." He stepped even closer, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "Every man in your life has failed you, Maria Jackson." Her breath caught. How did he know her full name? How did he know anything about her? "Your father," Kenzo continued, eyes never leaving hers. "He gambled away your childhood, your college fund, your mother's medical bills. He chose cards and dice over you, again and again." Maria's chest tightened painfully. "Your ex-boyfriend, Marcus," Kenzo said, and Maria's eyes widened in shock. "He told you that you'd never be enough, that you were too dark, too curvy, too poor. He took your money, ruined your credit, and left you for a woman who fit his standards better." Tears slipped down Maria's cheeks before she could stop them. "Every boss who underpaid you," Kenzo continued relentlessly. "Every man who looked at you like you were invisible unless they wanted something from you. Every person who made you feel small." He leaned in, his breath brushing her ear. "Let me show you why I'm different." Maria's heart cracked open. She hated him. She hated the situation. She hated that he was right. But she had no choice. "Fine," she whispered, voice breaking. "I'll marry you." Kenzo stepped back, his face unreadable once more. "Good." He snapped his fingers. One of his men stepped forward with a black folder. Kenzo opened it, revealing a marriage contract. Thick legal binding. Maria stared at it, her hands shaking as she reached for the pen. "Read it first," Kenzo said. She blinked. "What?" "Read it," he repeated, voice firm. "I won't have you saying I tricked you." Maria's hands trembled as she picked up the document. The terms were surprisingly fair. She would be his wife. She would live with him. But there were clauses about her safety, her freedom to work, her right to divorce after 1 year if she chose. "Why are you giving me an out?" she asked, confused. Kenzo's eyes met hers. "Because I don't want a prisoner. I want a wife who chooses to stay." Maria didn't understand any of this. But she was out of options. "Sign," Kenzo said softly. She did. The moment her signature hit the paper, Kenzo closed the folder with a soft click that sounded like a prison door locking. "Welcome to your new life, Mrs. Kenzo." The elevator ride to his penthouse was silent, suffocating. Maria stood as far from Kenzo as possible, her arms wrapped around herself, her mind racing. What have I done? The doors opened to a space that looked more like a fortress than a home. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, the lights twinkling like stars she could never reach. Dark furniture, cold marble, everything sharp, expensive, untouchable. Just like him. "Your room is down the hall," Kenzo said, not looking at her. "First door on the left." Maria blinked. "My room." He finally turned to her, expression flat. "You're my wife on paper, not in my bed." She should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt confused, insulted even. "Then why marry me at all?" she demanded. Kenzo's jaw tightened. For a moment, he didn't answer. Then he stepped closer, slow, controlled, inevitable. "Because I don't want a woman who throws herself at me," he said quietly. "I want a woman who fights me, who challenges me, who makes me work for it." His eyes burned into hers. "And you, Maria Jackson, are the first woman who ever looked at me like I was a monster and still didn't run." Her breath caught. "Every woman I've ever known wanted me for my power, my money, my name," he continued, voice low and honest in a way that shocked her. "They pretended to be afraid to seem innocent. They pretended to resist to seem virtuous. But you..." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his fingertips brushed her cheek. "You're actually afraid. You actually resist. And that makes you real." Maria's heart thundered in her chest. Before she could respond, he turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing through the penthouse until a door slammed somewhere in the distance. Maria stood alone in the vast, empty space, her heart pounding, her mind spinning. She was married to a mafia boss, and she had no idea if she had just made a deal with the devil or found the only man who had ever truly seen her. Maria woke to soft morning light filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then reality crashed back. The marriage. The contract. Kenzo. She sat up slowly, her body aching from a night of restless sleep on a mattress that was far too expensive to be comfortable. Her clothes from yesterday were wrinkled, her hair a mess. She looked around the massive bedroom, her prison, and felt the weight of her situation settle over her like a heavy blanket. A soft knock on the door made her freeze. "Miss Jackson," a woman's voice called. "Mr. Kenzo requests your presence in the dining room." Maria's pulse spiked. She pulled on the same dress from last night, hating how small she felt in it, how worn down, how poor. She followed the housekeeper through dark hallways lined with expensive art that probably cost more than Maria had earned in her entire life. Kenzo sat at the head of a long table, dressed impeccably in a charcoal suit despite the early hour. A single cup of coffee sat in front of him. He didn't look up when she entered. "Sit." Maria hesitated, then obeyed, taking the seat at the opposite end of the long table. The distance between them felt symbolic. A plate was placed in front of her by a silent server. Eggs, toast, fresh fruit, perfectly arranged. "Eat," Kenzo said, still not looking at her. "I'm not hungry." His eyes lifted slowly. Cold. Unreadable. "You haven't eaten properly in 3 days. Eat." Maria's stomach twisted. How did he know that? Had he been watching her before the casino? How long had he been planning this? "I don't take orders from you," she said, voice trembling but defiant. Kenzo set down his cup with a soft clink. He stood, slow and deliberate, and walked around the table until he was beside her chair. Maria's breath quickened. He leaned down, his hands gripping the armrests on either side of her, caging her in. His scent washed over her. Expensive cologne, coffee, something darker she couldn't name. "You signed a contract," he murmured, his face inches from hers. "You're my wife now, which means I protect you, even from yourself." His voice dropped lower. "So eat, or I'll sit here and watch you until you do. And I have all day." Maria's heart slammed against her ribs. She hated the heat that crawled up her neck, hated the way her body responded to his proximity, hated that she wanted to both push him away and pull him closer. She grabbed the fork and took a bite, her hands shaking. Kenzo watched her for a long moment, something unreadable in his dark eyes. Then he returned to his seat. "Good girl." Maria glared at him, but she kept eating, because despite everything, the food was delicious, and she was starving. When she finished, Kenzo stood and walked to the window, hands in his pockets. "Get dressed," he said without turning. "We're going out." "Where?" "Shopping." Maria blinked. "What?" He finally looked at her, his expression unreadable. "You need clothes. Proper clothes." "Not." His gaze swept over her wrinkled dress. "This." Shame burned through her chest. She looked down at herself, suddenly aware of how small and poor she must look to him. The dress was from a thrift store. Her shoes were scuffed. She looked exactly like what she was. A broke woman who'd been dragged into a world she didn't belong in. "I don't need your charity," she said quietly. "It's not charity," Kenzo replied, voice flat. "You're my wife. You represent me now. And I won't have you looking like you don't belong." Maria's throat tightened. Every man in her life had made her feel small. Her father, who gambled away their lives. Her ex-boyfriend Marcus, who told her she'd never be classy enough, before leaving her for someone with a smaller waist and a lighter complexion. And now Kenzo, reminding her she wasn't good enough for his world either. She stood abruptly. "Fine, let's get this over with." But as she walked past him toward the door, Kenzo's hand shot out, catching her wrist gently. She froze. "Maria," he said quietly. She didn't turn around, didn't trust herself to speak. His thumb brushed the inside of her wrist, a touch so soft it felt like an apology. "Every man in your life made you feel invisible," he murmured. "Made you feel like you weren't enough, like you had to shrink yourself to fit into their world." He released her wrist and stepped back. "I'm not them, and I'm going to prove it." The boutique was elegant, exclusive, the kind of place Maria had only walked past before. pressing her face against the glass like a child outside a candy store. Glass displays showcased dresses that cost more than her rent. Soft music played. The air smelled like expensive perfume and new leather. Maria stood just inside the entrance, frozen, overwhelmed. Kenzo walked in behind her, his presence commanding immediate attention. The staff rushed forward, bowing slightly. "Mr. Kenzo, welcome back." He ignored them, his eyes on Maria. "Choose whatever you want," he said simply. Maria stared at the racks of clothes, at the silk and cashmere and designer labels. I don't even know where to start." Kenzo nodded to one of the attendants, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes. "Bring her everything. Casual, formal, sleepwear, workout clothes. Everything." The woman's eyes lit up. "Of course, Mr. Kenzo. What's her size?" Kenzo's eyes swept over Maria's body, assessing but not leering. 8. Medium tops. Shoe size 7.5. Maria's eyes widened. "How do you?" "I pay attention," he said simply. Within minutes, Maria was ushered into a private fitting room larger than her old apartment. Dresses were brought in one after another. Jeans, blouses, coats, shoes. More than she'd owned in her entire life. She tried on a simple sundress first, white with small flowers. When she stepped out of the fitting room, she found Kenzo sitting in a leather chair, waiting. His eyes lifted. He didn't say anything. He just looked at her, his gaze moving slowly from her face down to her bare legs and back up again. Maria shifted uncomfortably. "It's too much, isn't it?" "No," he said quietly. "It's perfect." Something in his voice made her chest tighten. She tried on another dress, then another. Each time she stepped out, Kenzo watched with that same intense, unreadable expression. He never smiled, never complimented, just watched like he was memorizing every detail. Then the attendant brought out a deep emerald green dress. Silk, form-fitting, elegant in a way that made Maria's breath catch. "This one's too expensive," Maria said, seeing the price tag. "I can't." "Try it on," Kenzo said, voice leaving no room for argument. She did. When she stepped out, the room fell silent. The dress hugged her curves perfectly, made her dark skin glow like honey under warm light, made her look like she belonged in Kenzo's world. Kenzo stood slowly. He walked toward her, stopping just inches away. Maria's breath caught. "This one," he said quietly, "and every other dress in this store that makes you look at yourself like that." Maria's brow furrowed. "Like what?" His eyes burned into hers. "Like you're starting to believe you're beautiful." Her heart cracked open. "We'll take everything she tried on," Kenzo said to the attendant without looking away from Maria. "And that green dress. 3 more in different colors." "Kenzo, that's not negotiable," he said softly. Maria wanted to argue, wanted to maintain her pride. But something about the way he looked at her, like she mattered, like she was worth every dollar he was spending, made her defenses crumble just a little. "Thank you," she whispered. He nodded once, then turned away, but not before she saw something flicker in his eyes. Satisfaction, possession, protection, and something else. Something that looked almost like reverence. "Where are we going now?" Maria asked as they left the boutique, shopping bags carried by Kenzo's men to the waiting car. "One more stop," Kenzo said, opening the car door for her himself. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to an exclusive salon. The kind with marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and stylists who'd worked on celebrities and socialites. Maria's eyes widened. "Kenzo, I don't need." "Yes," he said simply. "You do." He walked in ahead of her, and immediately the staff rushed to greet him. He spoke quietly to the manager, then turned to Maria. "They'll take care of you. I'll be back in 2 hours." "You're leaving." She hated how panicked she sounded. Hated that she suddenly didn't want him to go. Kenzo's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "I have business, but you're safe here. My men are outside." He hesitated, then stepped closer, his voice dropping. "And Maria? Get whatever you want. Don't hold back. Don't think about the cost. Just let yourself be taken care of." Then he was gone. Maria was led to a private section of the salon. separated from the main floor by frosted glass doors. Champagne was offered. Soft music played. And for the first time in years, someone asked her what she wanted. "What are we doing today?" the stylist asked with a warm smile. Maria looked at herself in the mirror. Her hair was damaged from box dye and neglect, the ends split and dry. Her nails were bare and broken from working double shifts at the diner. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. She looked tired, worn down, used up. She swallowed hard. "I don't know. Just make me look like I belong." The stylist's smile widened. "Honey, you already belong. Let's just make sure everyone else sees it." For the next 2 hours, Maria was pampered in ways she'd never experienced. Her hair was washed with products that smelled like heaven, deep conditioned until it felt like silk, trimmed to remove the damage, and styled into soft, healthy curls that framed her face perfectly. Her nails were shaped and painted a deep burgundy that made her feel powerful. A subtle makeup application enhanced her features without hiding them, highlighting her cheekbones, making her eyes sparkle, defining her full lips. When she finally looked in the mirror, she didn't recognize herself. She looked beautiful, confident, like someone who mattered. Tears pricked her eyes. "You okay?" the stylist asked gently. Maria nodded, unable to speak, because no one had ever done this for her before. No one had ever made her feel like she was worth this kind of care. When Kenzo returned, he stopped in the doorway of the salon. His eyes found hers in the mirror. For a long moment he didn't move, didn't speak. He just stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time, like she'd stolen his breath and he was trying to figure out how to get it back. Then he walked forward slowly, stopping behind her chair. His hand lifted, fingers barely brushing one of her curls. "Perfect," he murmured. Maria's heart stuttered. In the mirror, their eyes met, and for the first time, she saw something in his gaze that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. Desire, possession, reverence, and something deeper, something that looked almost like awe. "Let's go home," he said quietly. And Maria realized with a jolt that the penthouse had started to feel like exactly that. Home. That night, Maria stood in front of the mirror in her room, wearing one of the new silk pajama sets Kenzo had bought, navy blue with delicate lace trim. Her hair fell in soft curls around her shoulders. She looked like a different person. She heard a knock on her door. "Come in," she said softly. Kenzo entered, still in his dress shirt and slacks, though his tie was gone and the top buttons were undone. He looked tired, human. The armor he wore during the day had cracked just slightly. "I wanted to make sure you had everything you needed," he said. Maria turned to face him. "Why are you doing this?" "Doing what?" "This." She gestured to herself, to the room, to everything. The clothes, the salon, the kindness. Kenzo's jaw tightened. "That's not kindness, Maria. That's basic decency. It's more than anyone else has ever given me," Maria said quietly. Something shifted in his expression. Pain, anger on her behalf. "Then everyone else was a fool," he said, voice low and fierce. Maria's eyes burned with tears she refused to let fall. "My father used me like a bargaining chip my whole life. My ex-boyfriend Marcus told me I'd never be pretty enough, successful enough, good enough for his family. Every man I've ever known has made me feel like I was worthless." Kenzo crossed the room in 3 strides. He cupped her face with both hands, forcing her to look at him. "You are not worthless," he said, each word deliberate. "You are not a burden. You are not something to be used and discarded." His thumb brushed away a tear that had escaped. "You are mine, Maria, and I protect what's mine." "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care?" Kenzo's eyes searched hers, and for the first time, she saw his armor crack completely. "Because when I look at you," he said quietly, "I see someone who's survived everything this world threw at her and still has the strength to fight me, still has the courage to challenge me, still has the fire to look me in the eye and refuse to back down." His forehead rested against hers. "Because you're the only woman who's ever made me want to be different." Maria's breath caught. "Kenzo." He pulled back slightly, his hands still cradling her face. "I made you a vow when we signed those papers. he said. Every man in your life failed you. I won't. I'll prove it every single day for the rest of your life if I have to. Maria's heart shattered and rebuilt itself in the same breath. I'm scared, she whispered. Good, he murmured. So am I. And then he did something that shocked her. He stepped back, creating distance, respecting her boundaries even though she could see in his eyes that it cost him. Sleep well, Maria, he said softly. Then he left, closing the door behind him with a soft click. Maria stood there, trembling, her heart racing, because she realized something terrifying. She was starting to trust him, and trust was the most dangerous thing she could give a man like Kenzo. Days passed. A week, 2 weeks. Kenzo kept his distance physically, but he was always there, making sure she ate, asking about her day, listening when she talked about wanting to go back to school, to finish her degree in business management. And then one morning, he did something that changed everything. I enrolled you, he said over breakfast. Maria looked up from her coffee. What? Business school. Online program through NYU. You start next month. Maria's fork clattered to her plate. You what? That costs. It's handled, Kenzo said simply. You mentioned wanting to finish your degree, so finish it. Tears burned her eyes. Why would you do that? Kenzo's eyes met hers, and she saw something raw in them. Because every man in your life told you that you couldn't, that you weren't smart enough, that you should give up your dreams to serve theirs. He leaned forward. I'm showing you I'm different. Maria couldn't speak. She just stared at this man, this terrifying mafia boss, who was quietly dismantling every wall she'd ever built. That night, she couldn't sleep. She walked through the penthouse until she found Kenzo in his office, staring out at the city, a glass of whiskey in his hand. Can't sleep? He asked without turning. No, she said softly. She walked forward until she stood beside him, looking out at the glittering lights. Why did you really marry me? She asked quietly. And don't give me the line about me being real. Tell me the truth. Kenzo was silent for a long moment. Then he set down his glass. Do you want the truth? Yes. He turned to face her, his eyes dark, haunted. 3 months ago I saw you, he said. You were leaving your job at the diner. It was late, raining. You looked exhausted. And there was a man following you. Maria's eyes widened. I watched you notice him, watched you speed up, watched you duck into a 24-hour convenience store and wait until he left. Kenzo's jaw tightened. You handled it alone. You didn't panic. You didn't break. You survived. And I thought, he exhaled slowly. I thought, there's a woman who knows how to fight. He stepped closer. Then I looked into you, discovered you were connected to one of my debtors, your father. About Marcus, who destroyed your credit and your confidence before leaving you for someone his mother approved of. About every man who'd ever failed you. His hand lifted, cupping her face gently. And I realized I wanted to be the one man who didn't. Maria's breath caught. I could have just killed your father and written off the loss, Kenzo continued, or forgiven the debt and walked away. But I didn't want to, because from the moment I saw you, Maria Jackson, you were already mine. Tears streamed down her face. I'm scared, she whispered. Of me. Of this. Of trusting you. Of... She swallowed hard. Of falling in love with you. Kenzo's eyes darkened. His thumb brushed her cheek. I'm scared too, he admitted. I've never wanted to be good for anyone before. Never wanted to be gentle. Never wanted to be different. His forehead rested against hers. But you make me want to be all of those things. Maria's hands slid up his chest, feeling his heartbeat thundering beneath her palms. Kenzo, I'm not rushing you, he said quietly. I'll wait as long as you need. Years if I have to, because you're worth waiting for. He pulled back slightly, his eyes searching hers. But I need you to know something. Every day, I'm going to prove I'm different. Every single day, I'm going to show you what it means to be cherished, to be protected, to be loved the way you deserve. Maria's heart shattered completely. I'm starting to believe you, she whispered. Kenzo's expression softened in a way she'd never seen before. Good, he murmured. That's all I need. And then he kissed her, Soft, gentle, reverent, not claiming, not demanding, asking. Maria melted into him, her hands sliding into his hair, her body surrendering to the man who had proven, day after day, that he was everything he promised to be. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Kenzo rested his forehead against hers. "I love you, Maria," he whispered, "and I'll spend every day for the rest of my life proving it." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too," she breathed, and for the first time in her life she meant it without fear. 3 weeks later, Maria woke to the sound of shouting. She ran into the main hall, heart pounding, and froze. Kenzo stood in the center of the room, surrounded by his men, his jaw clenched, his eyes burning with cold fury. And on his knees in front of him, face bruised and bloodied, was her father. Maria's world tilted. "Kenzo, stay back," he snapped, not looking at her. Her father looked up, eyes desperate. "Maria, please. I didn't mean." "He tried to sell you again," Kenzo said, voice lethal. "To the Yakuza. For $5 million. Maria's breath stopped. "What?" Her father's face crumpled. I needed the money. They were going to kill me. I had no choice." "You always have a choice," Kenzo said coldly. "And you chose to sell your daughter. Again." Maria felt tears streaming down her face. "How could you? After everything." "I'm sorry," her father sobbed. "I'm so sorry. Please, please forgive me." Kenzo pulled out his gun. Maria's heart stopped. "No!" she screamed. Kenzo's eyes finally met hers, and what she saw there made her knees weak. He was giving her the choice. Her father's life was in her hands. "What do you want me to do?" he asked quietly. Maria stared at the man who had brought her into this world. The man who had failed her over and over. The man who had just tried to sell her for the second time. She thought about every broken promise. Every time he chose gambling over her. Every moment she went hungry because he spent their money on his addiction. Every man who'd failed her because her father had shown them how. She thought about Kenzo, the man who'd kept every promise. Who'd shown her what it meant to be valued. Who'd proven every single day that he was different. "Let him go," she whispered. Kenzo's eyes widened slightly. "Maria, let him go," she repeated, voice stronger now. "He's not worth your bullets. He's not worth anything." She walked forward until she stood in front of her father. "You were supposed to protect me," she said, voice shaking. "You were supposed to be the first man who loved me unconditionally. But you failed. Over and over, you failed." Tears streamed down her face. "I'm done being your safety net. I'm done being your bargaining chip. I'm done waiting for you to be the father you should have been." She turned to Kenzo. "Let him leave. And make sure he never comes near me again." Kenzo studied her for a long moment. Pride flickered in his eyes. Then he nodded. His men dragged her father out. The older man was sobbing, begging, but Maria didn't look back. When the door closed, the silence was deafening. Maria stood there, shaking, her heart breaking and healing at the same time. Then she felt Kenzo's arms around her, pulling her close, holding her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. "I'm proud of you," he murmured into her hair. Maria broke. She sobbed into his chest, her hands fisting in his shirt, all the years of pain and abandonment pouring out of her. And Kenzo held her through all of it. Steady, strong, unbreakable. "You're safe now," he whispered. "I've got you. I'll always have you." And for the first time in her life, Maria believed it. 6 months later, Maria stood in front of the mirror in a white dress that made her feel like a queen. Today was their real wedding. Not the contract signed in desperation, but a celebration of the love they'd built together, brick by brick, promise by promise. A knock on the door made her turn. Kenzo stood in the doorway, breathtaking in a black tuxedo. His eyes widened when he saw her, and for a moment, he looked completely vulnerable. "You're not supposed to see me before the ceremony," Maria said, smiling through tears. Kenzo walked forward slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. "I've waited 6 months to tell you something," he said quietly. "What?" He took her hands in his thumbs brushing her knuckles. Every man in your life failed you, he said. Your father, your ex, every person who made you feel small, who made you doubt your worth, who made you believe you weren't enough. His eyes burned into hers. I vowed to be different, to prove that not all men are the same, that you deserve to be loved without conditions, protected without control, cherished without manipulation. Tears streamed down Maria's face. And I kept that vow, Kenzo continued, voice thick with emotion. Every single day, I chose you. I chose to be gentle, to be patient, to earn your trust instead of demand it, to respect your boundaries instead of violate them. He lifted one hand to cup her face. Today, I'm making a new vow. In front of everyone who matters, I'm promising to love you for the rest of my life, to protect you, to be the man you deserve. His voice dropped to a whisper. To be different. Always. Maria couldn't speak. She just threw her arms around him and held him tight, her tears soaking into his tuxedo. You kept your promise, she whispered. You showed me what real love looks like, what it means to be with a man who actually values me. Kenzo pulled back, his own eyes suspiciously bright. And I'll keep showing you, every day, forever. He kissed her softly, then whispered against her lips. Ready to marry me for real this time? Maria laughed through her tears. I've been ready for months. The ceremony was intimate. Close friends. Kenzo's trusted men. Maria's college roommate who'd never stopped believing in her. But most importantly, it was real. When Maria walked down the aisle, Kenzo's eyes never left her. And when she reached him, he took her hands like she was something precious he'd been searching for his whole life. The officiant spoke, but Maria barely heard the words. She was too focused on Kenzo, on the way he looked at her like she was his entire world. Do you, Kenzo, take Maria to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do, he said, voice steady, certain. And I vow to be different from every man who came before me, to love her, protect her, and cherish her every day of my life. And do you, Maria, take Kenzo to be your lawfully wedded husband? Maria's voice shook, but her words were clear. I do, and I vow to trust you, to love you, and to believe in the man you've proven yourself to be. When they kissed, it felt like coming home. That night, back at the penthouse, Maria stood nervously in their bedroom now not hers alone. Kenzo entered quietly, closing the door behind him. He'd removed his jacket and tie, his shirt partially unbuttoned. You're nervous, he observed. Maria nodded, unable to deny it. I told you before. I'm a virgin, Kenzo finished softly. I know. He crossed the room slowly, giving her time to adjust to his presence. And that doesn't change anything, he murmured. We don't have to do anything tonight, or tomorrow, or until you're ready. Maria's eyes filled with tears. You've waited 6 months. I'd wait 60 years, he said simply. You're worth it. That broke something inside her. The last wall she'd been holding on to. I don't want to wait anymore, she whispered. Kenzo's eyes darkened. Maria, I trust you, she said, stepping closer. I love you, and I'm ready. Kenzo cupped her face with both hands. If at any point you want me to stop, I know, she whispered, and that's why I'm not afraid anymore. He kissed her then, soft and gentle, like she was made of glass. His hands were careful as they moved to the zipper of her dress, asking permission with every touch. Tell me if I hurt you, he murmured against her lips. You won't, she breathed, and he didn't. Kenzo made love to her with a tenderness that broke her heart and healed it at the same time. Slow, patient, worshipping every inch of her like she was sacred. When she gasped in pain, he stopped, holding her, whispering words of love until she relaxed again. I've got you, he whispered. I'll always have you. And Maria believed him. Afterward, she lay in his arms, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For being different. For proving that not all men are the same. For showing me what love really looks like. Kenzo's arms tightened around her. Thank you for giving me the chance to prove it. Maria smiled against his chest. I love you. I love you too, he murmured. More than I thought I could ever love anyone. 2 years later, Maria sat in the nursery, rocking gently in the chair, a tiny baby girl sleeping in her arms. Soft morning light filtered through the curtains, painting everything in gold. Kenzo entered quietly, his footsteps soft on the carpet. He knelt beside the chair, his hand gently stroking their daughter's dark curls. "She's perfect," he whispered. "Just like her father," Maria murmured. Kenzo's eyes met hers, and she saw everything in that gaze. Love, devotion, gratitude, wonder. "I never thought I'd have this," he admitted quietly. "A family, a home, someone who makes me want to be better every single day." Maria's hand covered his. "You proved you were different, Kenzo. You kept your vow. You showed me that not all men fail the women they love." Their daughter stirred, tiny fingers wrapping around Kenzo's thumb. His eyes softened in a way that still took Maria's breath away. "I'm going to show her too," he said quietly. "I'm going to show her what a good man looks like, so she never settles for less." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "You're going to be an amazing father." Kenzo leaned forward, pressing a soft kiss to her forehead. "And you're already an incredible mother." He looked down at their daughter, then back at Maria. "Thank you," he whispered, "for trusting me, for loving me, for giving me a chance to be different." Maria smiled through her tears. "Thank you for proving every day that you meant it." They sat there in comfortable silence, watching their daughter sleep, both thinking about the journey that had brought them here. From a desperate marriage contract in a casino to this moment of perfect peace. From fear and mistrust to love and certainty. From every man who'd failed her to the one man who'd vowed to be different and kept that vow every single day. Maria looked at Kenzo, at the man who'd dismantled her walls brick by brick with patience and consistency. At the man who'd shown her that love wasn't supposed to hurt. That protection didn't mean control. That being cherished didn't require her to make herself small. "I'm glad it was you," she whispered. Kenzo's eyes met hers, dark and intense and full of everything he felt. "I'm glad you gave me the chance to prove I was worth it." Their daughter yawned, stretching tiny fists. And in that moment, surrounded by the family they'd built and the love they'd fought for, both of them knew they'd found exactly what they'd been searching for their whole lives. Not perfection, but something better. Someone who chose to be different. Someone who kept their vows. Someone who loved without conditions. And that was worth more than all the money, power, and status in the world. Every man failed her, until one vowed to be different. Would you have trusted Kenzo if you were Maria? Drop your answer in the comments, subscribe, and turn on notifications for the next upload. Merry Christmas in advance to you and your loved ones. May love, peace, and second chances find you this season.